Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the final. Oh, yes, we're there. And I'm going to be covering it all for you. What a treat. So, the final is between these two brave gladiators. And let me just show you their faces. Wesley So. T-shirt's looking a bit messy today. I've just got up. Is that toothpaste? Oh, my words, what a professional. Toothpaste? How did you get there, son? How did you get there? So we have the famous Wesley So, there we go, just get rid of it, and Liam Kwong Lee. And we're going to be looking at their, well, some very interesting games that they played today in this very exciting end to this Chessable Masters. And, well, there's certainly some lessons that can be learnt. So both players up to this point have been performing brilliantly. Wesley So, as I say, is just time and time again proven to be maybe the best, along with Magnus, in the world at this time limit. The outsider, you must therefore say, is Liam Kwong Lee, who has had a great tournament and shown that he's a worthy contender, knocking out some great players in great style, and he's been controlling the games, yet tactically alert when needed. In this game, Wesley has the white pieces, and we're going to be looking at it from his point of view. And it was a very close game. Let's dive in. It starts with Wesley playing e4, and we go into a Raul Lopez opening, the Spanish, with bishop b5, and this is maybe the first opening that anyone should learn. I didn't learn this as my first opening. I regret that a little bit. I'm picking it up even now and hoping to master it at some point in the future. But it leads to very complex situations. After a6, bishop a4, and now knight to f6, the main line Raul Lopez. Most of the pieces remain on the board. There's subtle manoeuvring. You get often quite closed or semi-closed structures, but structures that can open up in tactics at any moment. So white now castles the main line, and black plays bishop e7. Another quite trendy line at the moment is the Archangel, putting the bishop on c5. You can play b5 first and do that, or bishop c5 straight away. And this has its positives and negatives. The bishop is more active on this square, but it's going to get hit with d4 tempo, and the pin on g5 can be more painful for black. Therefore, the standard bishop e7 is this has been like a position that's been around for centuries, maybe one of the oldest openings out there and the most tested. Now, Wesley So avoids some of the really sharp stuff and plays the anti-martial with d3. And this is probably the move that I would play if I was playing white, because I'd want to just play it quite subtly and do a lot of manoeuvring, learn how my pieces maneuver before learning the mainline theory. And this leads to typical ideas where, you know, in these positions the knight comes round to g3, the bishop on a4 needs to avoid swapping itself off, and later on stuff will happen. The other move that you can play here is rook e1. Well, there's also other moves, but rook e1 is the main line, the main Raul Lopez. And after something like b5, this move's a useful move to play. You stop any possibilities of white capturing and capturing on e5. You push the bishop away, and now castles c3, white trying to gain the center. The slight issue with this way of playing is the Marshall Gambit d5. And the Marshall Gambit is considered probably to be a draw at the moment, but it's so theoretical. If you're going to play this way as white or as black, you need to have memorized vast amounts of theory. And even for Wesley So, he decides not to go in for this. He plays d3, more maneuvering. b5, the bishop comes back, d6, consolidating, and now a4, a main move in these systems. You want to probe on the queen side, hoping that this extra move will give you more chances. Magnus, I believe, played rook b8 recently in this position against Duda, but he didn't get a very good position, or a very similar position. But bishop d7 is more common, just so the rook is defended if pawn takes pawn occurs. Now a very standard move here, c3. You can consider putting the knight on that square and bringing it quickly there, but this is the more traditional way of playing, where white is saving c2 for the bishop, but also just preparing to play in the center with d4 at the right moment. The knight on b1 will come around to this square, and you wait and see with your bishop on c1 what to do with that. So castles, the bishop drops back, and the main idea is to defend e4, so you can play d4. And now black does some standard maneuvering. Rook e8 is a standard plan for black. Why? Every move has purpose, and when you're playing any game of chess, you've got to be able to verbally explain the purpose behind your moves. If you can't explain to yourself verbally why am I playing that move, you probably shouldn't be playing it. The idea of this is to pressurize e4. After something, let's say like this, you have options at some point, maybe not here, of pressurizing this pawn. That's one idea. The other idea in this position is the bishop is quite bad on e7, and we want to actually bring it around to g7. And this is where you get these subtle maneuvering, why the Ruy Lopez is such a good opening to learn, because you've got to learn how to maneuver yet take tactical possibilities. Wesley builds up patiently, rook e1. Before he does anything in the center, he wants to get his pieces, which are undeveloped, into the right squares. His undeveloped position doesn't matter at the moment because it's a closed position. It doesn't necessarily matter if you're behind in development if there's no open lines or ways your opponent can attack on them. h6, safety first, and now the knight does the standard maneuvering. Black goes with his bishop, and the knight comes to f1. This knight often wants to spring to life, and we're going to see this knight play an important role on the king side. Now b4 is a very fine move here, I feel. Black keeps the balance very well. You could also try d5 here, but I like the idea of stopping white from opening the position. Wesley maneuvers, knight g3, and black now just clarifies the queen side a little bit and breaks with d5. So far, both players playing very well, and we will have a look at this opening with G-Chess again at the end of this, because I want to learn more about this opening. I'm going to use our creation at G-Chess to learn a bit more, and I do advise all you to subscribe and do the same. So here, white now has to make a decision, because if you sit here as white, this pawn has a lot of options, and the way that white generally plays this is to take on d5 and now hope that pressure against e5 is going to be of use to him. He's also going to hope that the bishop here will come to life at the right moment with d4, and that these squares can be used for the knights. On the other hand, black's getting a space advantage. Bishop d2, have to defend the pawn. Black plays his rook to an open file. And now a5, just to control that square and cramp on that area of the board, but also maybe to attack the knight that's defending the pawn there. So little maneuvering. Knight to f6, preparing some ideas of e4. The knight was a little bit exposed there, and now Wesley does attack this pawn indirectly by threatening to take the knight, take the pawn. So bishop d6, and I would say it's around even here. I think Liam Lequang has got out the opening very well. h3, a useful move to play. There's no rush. If you can't see anything immediate in these positions, you just look at little ways to improve your structure. In order to be able to play a move like h3 though, you must be very aware of your opponent's ideas. If your opponent has any ideas that are threatening towards you, you won't have time to play these slow maneuvering moves. But as black doesn't have any dangerous ideas, we have possibilities here to improve our position. Just take away g4. Sometimes this knight will come to h2 to g4. Now knight to a7 was played here, and look, this looks okay, but a more standard maneuver in the position would have been knight e7. And the idea is to try to get rid of this light square bishop. Often white's light square bishop in the Ruy Lopez can be a tremendous piece when it gets attacking later on, as we're going to see. So you want to try to swap this one off. And why put the knight on e7? Well, this maneuver of bringing the knight to g6 is again one of the main maneuvers that black has. It's a bit like white putting the knight there. The knight on g6 is great at defending the center and attacking. So this made quite a lot of sense actually. Probably the move I would have tried as black there. Knight to a7, and now Wesley very rightly keeps the bishop on the board, and the knight now comes to b5, which is a little bit annoying for white, but I don't think a main issue. Is the knight a little bit too far offside here? Shouldn't it be around the black king a bit more, which it would be over here? I kind of feel maybe it should be. Wesley plays queen c1, and this is one of those moves which you're really telegraphing what your plan is, right? You're telegraphing the idea of sacrificing on h6, and from now on black must be very aware of that move. Bishop c6, and at the moment this is not going to be working because we can simply capture it, and a very important defensive move, and again we mentioned this, why the rook comes to e8 in these positions, is this bishop f8 move, and the bishop comes round to defend the black king on g7. So white now plays knight to h4, another standard idea. These knights are now trying to increase the pressure against black's king side, and you can see Wesley's aiming everything over there. Now bishop to f8 was a very normal move, and again I think this is what most people play without thinking. You're over defending these weak points. There may have been a slightly stronger move, I feel. What is the problem with black's position? Well, these knights can become quite scary. One knight might even sacrifice itself, and the other knight may then come in on that square. So I feel the move, a little tactical move here, knight h5, aiming to get rid of one of those knights and exchanging pieces off, would give black a good position. Let's remember, I think because black has this pawn on e5, I don't think, black has more space. So if black can avoid any tactics in the position, he's going to have a space advantage, and that should be, combined with his good bishops, be very pleasant. So let's just get rid of those attacking pieces. Now we could see what happens if you, for example, take on h5. I just get rid of one of your knights, and my queen's also very good here. If you try to put a knight onto f5, well, now I get rid of one of your knights again, and I feel compared to the game you've got a less attacking piece as white. If the other knight comes in trying to avoid the exchange, well, now the knight on h4 looks a bit misplaced, and we just want to over defend this one with a move like queen f6, and we're defending everything. We can go bishop f8, and our knight can even come in. So I like this way of playing, getting rid of your opponent's attacking pieces. Let's go on with the game. Bishop to f8 was played, allowing now a knight to dive into the position. Knight comes into the square. Queen d5, but to be fair, everything is still rather even. Knight to e3, because there was a rather strong threat. Queen c5, and I really like this next move, rook a4 from Wesley. This is a very ambitious move. The idea is to swing the rook around on this file. The rook wasn't doing anything. Maybe give it c4, in some cases h4, so bringing another piece into the position, improving the structure. But Liam keeps his pieces nicely centralized, attacks the rook, and now the other idea behind Wesley's play, d4. He's trying to open up the bishop, but this is double-edged. The queen drops back to a7. The rook now has to move, and Liam Lecorne has done a great job at defending so far. And now queen a8, and I think Liam is playing very, very well at this moment, but he was spending a little bit too much time. Now, as well as this, black could try grabbing the pawn on this square, but I expect he was afraid of this move, knight f5. And the point being, if you take here, well, I'm starting to get some very ominous looking pieces, but maybe you could get away with this. Maybe it was, maybe this kind of play was what Liam should be doing. Be brave, grab the pawn anyway. Let's go on with the game. So after this one, f3 was played, stopping that diagonal. And now Liam takes on d4, very, very normal moves. And here, maybe queen a7 coming back now to this square would have been a very good move. Trying to focus on a weakness. The queen's done its job on a8. It's made white play f3, and the move f3, remember every pawn move creates a weakness, weakens the dart squares, mainly this one here. So by placing your queen back on the dart squares, you can improve your structure. But let's have a look. The game continued, and still this is fairly even. The knight coming to b5, and this is also attacking that pawn. And now the attack starts, knight to f5. The bishop plays a good move, just keeping on that one. And now Wesley's throwing everything towards the king. At last, Liam plays queen a7, attacking his pawn, bishop e3, and now a horrendous error in the position. Had now Liam just started to eliminate again, there's a couple of things that Liam did badly in this match, you know, and it's very easy for me to say. Obviously, he's played great up to this point. It is rapid. I'm using a computer and hindsight. But one thing you need to do, and he didn't do, was eliminate his opponent's attacking pieces. He could have done that with knight h5, and here, had he played bishop takes f5, just try to get rid of as many of them as you can. Knight takes and g6. It's one of those structures where white has really given everything, but if his attack doesn't work, he's actually going to be pushed backwards, and black will jump forwards and take the initiative. And this move is just very clever, because you can't take here because of queen takes d4, and black starts this important counterplay in the position. And around here, I think if he just went for this elimination, simple idea, and then the standard g6, he would have even been better. But he plays the horrendous move c5. And another thing, the second thing I think Liam did badly in the match was just lacking a bit of sense of danger. Because you always, as we said, got to look out for the sacrifice, especially now there's a knight, bishop and queen and rook. And this move is just a double dubious mark move, because now knight takes h6 and black is losing. Just one error. You have to take this one, because otherwise we pick up all the pawns. And the point is now the bishop on c2, the bishop on h6, the rook, the queen, the knight, they're all coming in, and black has blocked his queen out of the game. There's no way you can defend the king in such a situation. Often, like I said, one of the great things about Ruy Lopez is you do this maneuvering, and then bang, it's checkmate. And that's why it's a really good opening to learn. And now black tries to defend. He gets a check in, but just king h2. The knight moves, but white eliminates the defender on f8, and he brings his queen in with check. 3 attackers against a pretty bare king is nearly always checkmate. If the king moves, well, we just put the knight on this square, and the queen comes in on the dark squares with checkmate. So knight g6, but here, well, it's pretty easy. We play knight h5, again, trying to get the queen in. Queen d4, counter-attacking, but bishop takes g6. There's too many pieces around that king. Liam tries to take the rook, but now there's a forced checkmate here, and you should be looking at violent moves here, and of course taking here with check, followed by queen f6, and then there's a mate on one of these two squares with no, not the e7 square, on the g7 square with the knight or queen. Now the amazing thing was, that was a great game, and we'll look at that, the opening there a little bit more, but I want to show you the last game, and Liam Lequang again had got a pretty decent position here as black, but he falls for the same thing. He's got the same structure with a pawn on h6. Wesley has managed to get his knight to f5, but this position is pretty even, because Liam Lequang has this counterplay. And here, had he played again g6, the move he missed in the first game, then I think black is even better here, because this pawn can be so strong. The bishop has potential to come out. Let's say rook g3, well, just king h7, and you defend everything over here. What does he play in the game? He again shows this lack of danger. He plays c3. What is the problem? Well, after rook f3, the queen is now in a real problem. If it goes to g6, rook g3, and we're going to take there, winning a pawn because of the pin. If anything else, knight takes h6, the queen has to go back, and now just the same tactic, a capture on h6. You better think that from now on Liam Lequang is going to be looking at his h6 pawn with so much and thinking, oh no, you know, if you've lost 2 games like this, you would certainly hope not to lose again. What's that saying? It's okay to lose once, but losing the same way twice is rather foolhardy. And the point here is the rook just comes to g3, the queen just comes into g4, and there's no way to stop mate. So let's have a look at the standings at the final. Well, we know that in this one, Wesley is one ahead. Do I see Liam Lequang catching up in that one? He's got to have a very good day today, and he's got to play a bit more proactive. I think Wesley's big favourite to win, but we'll have a look at that. The last YouTube video on this will be up tomorrow. I didn't really look at the third, fourth place. I think it was a draw, so that's still very open. It's like battling for third, fourth place. You see it in the Olympics. It's not as interesting, is it? You want to see winner or nothing, really. But let's now have a look at this opening using G-Chess. And I'm going to put it on the encyclopedia for now and see what we have. So we got to... I'm going to go through the moves that I know. And we're going to have a look at this bishop e7. Yep. And let's have a look. d3 is the ante. So we got this line here, which again has been in our encyclopedia, is analysed quite heavily, which is good to see. And we can flick back. We'll get rid of this PGN because we don't need to look at that opening. I'm more interested in this one. And now it went b5, okay, d6, a4. This is still in our thing. Bishop d7 looks like a very normal move. c3, and this must all be theory. Bishop c2. It's the first kind of new move away from our encyclopedia. So our encyclopedia recommends here, and it recommends just knight b d2, and then this kind of idea. So if we go back to this position, which we had, and let's just get that loaded up. After castles, what other games have been played? Well, we can have a look. Fabiano versus Magnus Carlsen. But I'm going to put it on the opening tree. I think this could be the most useful here. So I want to see the amount of games that have occurred in these positions. And I want to see the most popular moves. And bishop c2 and knight b2 are popular. So I'm going to click here. And rook e8. Yeah, we're still following the line. So this is still mainline theory. Rook e1. And now pawn to h6, so this is still obviously being played a lot. Knight bd2, bishop f8, so they're both following well-known stuff. Here, b4, so I'm wondering where the theory is going to end. Well, the knight now has been played twice to g3. Let's now turn that back off, and we can have a look at two games. And this one is a game between two very strong players, and we can see that white won this game, and we can see that it went pretty much along the same plans, except bishop c5 was now played. Very interesting. A slightly more active square, but black did lose this game, so maybe this I actually quite like the way that Liam played the game, except he didn't keep his kingside quite protected enough. So I think black's strategy of playing was absolutely fine. Do we have any online games in this line? Well, we can go back to move 12 and we can see we have online games here. And what about YouTube video? And I suppose the main position really is starting around here. This is a pretty known position, and we can see if there's any YouTube videos, and we do. We have Magnus Carlsen, and again, like I normally do when I'm lazy, I like looking at what Magnus Carlsen plays in these positions, because we can always learn from the master. But if you want to save all these, you can do a lot of work on them. And again, we're always building up the ECO and every part of this. So I'm going to be adding GingerGM videos to this, so you can go to the time code as well. But let's have a look, just end this off, and I will be investigating this opening in more depth soon. But let's have a look at this video, which looks like Judith Pogar on Magnus Carlsen, and we'll just have a little look at this to get a feel for it a little bit. So let's do that.
Knight c3, knight a5, something like this. Yeah, ab. At some point, bishop a2. Yeah, how was it? Yeah, something like that.
Probably not like this exactly, but we want to.
Yeah, bishop a2 before. I mean, yeah, I guess h3 is played somewhere. Yeah, first white is maybe playing knight d5, and then.
Yeah, maybe c5 here, or something.
No, before knight d5, knight b3 and c5 maybe, or. Yeah, at some point like this, yeah.
Actually, so it was this, I think.
Yeah, it's this. Exactly,
this or with rook e1. Maybe it was with rook e1.
Yeah, but exactly. I mean something like that. So we will see if it happens today.
It's funny that actually we are having a similar.
And we will see if it appears on the board. We will see if the players they follow our streams. So
yeah, just for
analyze quite.
I'm just going to fast forward it a little bit. This is quite interesting because. we can see I've got Kramnik by using G-Chess. So I've got Kramnik and Judith Polgar, two of the most amazing players in the world, analysing this game position that I wanted to look at. So what a better way to learn, and you can only do this by using the G-Chess tools. Imagine trying to find this commentary on YouTube without the G-Chess tools. It'd be extremely hard. And the other things, of course, you've got on G-Chess, if you want to play along with the YouTube video and then put it on the board, so we can create a new PGN, or we can keep one up here. I can play this video, and I can try to
probably not like this exactly, but we want to.
So I can follow the moves, so I can actually put them on the board, and I can put them in the PGN. So I'm training myself by watching the video, playing the moves, and then, like I've mentioned before, we can just save that into a new database, and we can have that database forever. So again, just want to show you how useful G-Chess is. Please give it a go. It is free to use, but if you want access to all the parts of G-Chess, you have to subscribe, and that is a really cool way to support what I do as well. It will help you and it will help me. Cheers everyone, thanks for now. I'll be back with the last video tomorrow.